All right. Yeah, so as Jason mentioned, I'm Brad LeDonne, and I'm an associate systems designer at Certain Affinity. And I just wanted to give a big thank you to Jason and the XP Game Summit for allowing me to give this talk today with all that is going on. So on behalf of myself and Certain Affinity, thank you very much for this opportunity. Now, I thought I would just start with some background on myself before I jump into my talk. So I graduated from Sheridan College in May of 2019 from the Bachelor of Game Design program. In my fourth year, I made the capstone game Eden, which was a third-person boss battle game, and I was the game designer on that project. Now, some about my professional experience. Throughout my schooling, part-time during the school year and full-time during the summers, I worked at a company called Battle Goat Studios. They're the creators of the Supreme Ruler franchise, a series that dates all the way back to 1982, and they are real-time strategy games. So while I was there, I shipped 3 projects as a game designer, and this was my entry into the industry and where I really learned as a designer that this is my passion and this is what I want to do. So this leads me to my current job, Certain Affinity, where, as I mentioned, I'm an associate systems designer, and it has been an absolute great place to work and a great entry into AAA. I really thought that getting into the AAA industry would be daunting, these larger teams, but Certain Affinity has made it a great experience. I've learned a lot, grown a lot as a designer, and it has been a joy to work there. You work with some of these people who have worked on the biggest franchises that you can name, and it's a great place to grow as a designer, and it has a great culture. I highly recommend, if you're interested, check out our website, check out our careers for both Austin and Toronto. We have jobs from junior all the way to leads. So after this talk, feel free to check out the careers page and apply to anything that you are interested in. Now a bit about Certain Affinity. They were founded in 2006 by Max Hoberman. They are headquartered in Austin, Texas, and in 2019 is when they opened up the Toronto studio that I work at. And the company has worked on some of the largest AAA franchises, Halo, Call of Duty, Doom, and many more that are listed on the website that makes it a very impressive resume. And it has a great culture. And this was a big thing for me. I wanted to join a company that had the culture that I wanted to be a part of, and Certain Affinity definitely meets that. On Fridays, we crack open the beer fridge. We all talk. We all, have like a chill day. It's a great experience. They encourage great team building, and it's been a great place for me to grow and learn. So I highly recommend you check us out. Now to get into, the meat of my talk, what I came here to talk about, the power of failure. And why I wanted to give this talk today was, when I was trying to break into the AAA industry, when I was trying to grow as a designer and get to where I wanted to be, I experienced a lot of failures. I experienced a lot of roadblocks and hurdles along the way. And during this process, I sort of, felt alone. I felt dissuaded. I felt like I wasn't cut out for this industry. But as time went on, I started to grow more. I started to be able to accept my failure, to learn from it, to know how to, keep going, how to achieve the success that I want, knowing that this failure is going to happen. It is inevitable, but I can learn from it. It doesn't have to be something that dissuades me, rather something that encourages me to keep going. Because failure is a scary word. No one wants to fail. No one wants to be told that they can't have something. But if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to achieve success, it is sort of inevitable. So if we can learn from it, if we can grow from it and share our failures, be open about them, I think we can all build each other up to better achieve the success that we want. And that is sort of what I wanted to share today. I thought I would start with a quote that I got along my process. Come on, dude, that's your resume? It's not good at all. Please do some research on effective resume writing and send back to me next week. Now, where is this quote from? This is from a recruiter I sent my resume to in 2017. So just to give you some background on this, I was in second year of college. I was excited. I really wanted to break into the AAA industry. I went on LinkedIn. I saw all these recruiters and people I can connect with. So I made a quick resume on Microsoft Word, something basic, just outlining what I've done, and I sent it to all these recruiters. And I didn't hear back from any of them besides for this one. So I remember I picked up my phone. I saw that email notification. I click it, and then I see this quote. And all I could think was, everybody else is probably thinking this. They just didn't say it. This is the only one that actually replied with their thoughts. And, I really started to get down on myself from this. I thought, well, I messed up. I can't recover from this. Maybe I'm just missing something that I can't do. But I started to realize that this isn't how I should take this quote. Instead, I should treat it as a great learning experience and be grateful that I had this opportunity to prove myself and test myself that I do belong in this industry. So instead of letting this get me down, I actually let it motivate me and treat it as a learning experience, because I wanted to prove that I do belong. I wanted to say that I can write an effective resume. I just need to learn more and grow, because I wasn't going to hit it out of the park on my first try. So after learning, after growing, after researching what I needed to do, I sent a mind-proved resume, and I got this quote back. Night and day difference. Well done. Much better. And this was from the same recruiter that I sent that resume to. And, this is like a success. I was happy. I was happy to have got this. It wasn't a job offer. It wasn't a job interview. It was just confirming that the hard work had paid off and that I didn't let it get to me. Because if I had taken that quote and just dissuaded, I never would have done this research into resume writing, build an effective resume, and I never would have had this opportunity to prove myself and test myself and realize this is what I'm going to face on my path to the end success that I want. So this leads me to my co-op and internship job search in the summer of third year. So I knew I had an effective resume because I know that process beforehand. I had some industry experience from working at Battle Goat Studios, and I did a lot of networking on LinkedIn, seeing what companies I want to talk to and such. And I had that indie experience, but I really wanted to be in AAA. I'm big on personal growth. I'm big on growing as a designer. So I wanted to diversify my experience that way. So I was confident. I thought I had the pedigree, the resume, what I needed to succeed. So what happened? What happened with this job search? I had 7 final stage interviews and 7 rejections. I was very fortunate to be able to go back to the company I was at previously, but this didn't make those rejections any easier. It was really tough. No one wants to be told you're that close to your dream, you're that close to achieving it, but you just weren't able to. And the first 2 rejections were really tough. I really took them to heart. I thought I'd spent all that time, put in all that work. I was so close to achieving that job, but I couldn't. Like, what's wrong? Maybe I'm not cut out for this industry. Maybe I'm missing something that I don't know. And I really got myself down, and I started to get in my head. But I started to realize that if I focus so much on those rejections and those failures, I'm going to miss out on so many great opportunities out there that I won't take advantage of because I'm so scared to have that feeling again. So instead, I realized I need to sort of flip the script. I need to turn these rejections into mini successes, because they're opportunities to grow. They're places where I can identify how I can better develop myself, better grow as a designer, better grow as an individual, know how to communicate who I am effectively. Because interviewing is a skill. You're not going to hit it out of the park on your first try. But with each one, I started to realize, okay, maybe this is how I could have answered better, or this is how I could have better prepared or communicated who I am. And those learning experiences paid off greatly. And while, the other rejections did happen and I didn't get those jobs, with each one, I was learning more and more and more what I needed to do to get into this industry and reach that success that I want. Had I been dissuaded after the first 2, I never would have been able to learn from the others and turn myself into this well-rounded individual that ended up where I am today. And then going into 4th year, I knew what I needed to do to grow as a designer during my capstone project to build up that pedigree as well, along with the soft skills I needed to develop. So this led me to my full-time job search. I felt prepared with my previous work experience, my resume, those failed interviews allowed me to build up confidence in myself and know who I am. And I really tried to display these when reaching out to people and networking. So I felt confident in myself that I had the previous experiences. I had those rejections that had built me up instead of bringing me down, and that I could achieve success when it came to my full-time job search. And then it happened. Certain Affinity. So I remember being in that room. I remember being told that we want to make you an offer. And it was a huge relief and such a great moment. And all I could think of was everything in my past, all those, failed job interviews, all those struggles had led me to this. And had those not happened, I don't think I would have been where I am today. It took 7 failed co-op interviews, 3 full-time job interviews that also didn't work out, and 1 recruiter critiquing my resume. And this led me to the job that I always wanted, but didn't think I could get. And the reason for this is, if you would have told me this is where I would be at the beginning of my job search, I would have never believed you. But with each interview, with each learning experience, I started to realize this is how I grow. This is all a part of the process to that success. Those rejections really actually gave me confidence because I knew that I was identifying ways to grow, which is extremely valuable. We don't always get stuff like that in life, of ways to identify personal growth. But that's what it allowed me to do. So if I got myself down, got in my head, dissuaded myself, I would have never taken the risk of applying to a company like this and seizing that opportunity when I had the chance to do so. So I'm eternally grateful for my struggles, even though it may have been tough to see that at the beginning. So what am I trying to say through these experiences and sharing them with you? You need to know how to fail up instead of failing down. It is a learning experience. It's not a motivation killer. It's very easy when you face failure to doubt yourself and just think you don't have what it takes to break into whatever you're doing. But instead, it's actually a great learning experience, because anyone who has achieved great success, they didn't do it on their first try. It took time. They faced roadblocks. They faced struggles. But because they stuck with it and didn't give up, they were able to achieve that success. But if you get yourself down and feel dissuaded, you'll never achieve that success that you are looking for. And don't compare yourselves to others. Everyone is on their own trajectory. Everyone is riding their own wave. Do what you have to do, and you will achieve that success. Don't worry about when other people are achieving it. Just focus on yourself, developing yourself, and you will get to where you want to be. And like I mentioned, everyone goes through failure. Everyone experiences it. And the sooner you realize this, the better, because you're not alone in the process. Everyone goes through it. You are growing. You are developing. Feel free to be open about your failures. If we all can share what we learned, how we got through this, we all can build each other up and help us achieve that success that we want so much. So I thought I would tie this topic back into my craft, game design, because failure is it's a pivotal part of it, and it is very important. So you want to be able to fail fast with your designs. I know this sounds weird, but you do. You want to be able to get something, in engine, get something in a playtester's hand and see what works and see what doesn't. Because this is extremely valuable. If you can see, how can I iterate upon my design? How can I build upon my design? And how can I keep moving forward and finding the fun and success that I want from this design, the better. If you wait too long because you're scared of it not working out, or you're scared of what people might say about your design, it might be too late, or you're never going to grow as a designer. But that is the key part of design is experimenting, having fun with it, seeing what works, knowing when to pivot. And then next time you approach that same design problem, you'll better know how to solve it, because you took those risks previously that allowed you to learn from them and grow. So be able to pivot, be able to experience failure as a design. Don't take it personally. Game design isn't a formula. It's not something you can just plug in and get to work. It's something you need to experiment with and just grow over time and know this works, this doesn't. This is how I find the fun. And the sooner you can do that, the better, or else it might be too late. And then suddenly some design you inherently know isn't great slips into there because you were too scared to take that risk and see what people have to say. Now, I thought I would just share some job seeking advice for, people looking to break into the industry or, work their way up. LinkedIn is a great tool for connecting with people in the industry. And if you can have an effective LinkedIn profile and know how to communicate on that, that is extremely powerful, because it's not, every day that you can go on this network and you can see people who work everywhere and just send them a message. and know how to do that effectively. Know how to pitch yourself. Know how to get people interested in who you are when you are sending that message. Being able to communicate that effectively will allow you to be very successful on LinkedIn when reaching out to people, and that can lead to great opportunities. And follow up with people. If you meet someone in person, meet someone online, and you're interested in learning more, send them an email, send them a message. Take that risk of putting yourself in that position to succeed. If they don't reply, you didn't lose anything, but you took that risk that could have led to success down the line. And this is actually how I got my job. Certain Affinity came into Sheridan to talk, and it sounded like the company I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to join the Toronto studio as it was expanding. So I followed up with them. I messaged the design director, and this led to the opportunity that I have today. And had I been too scared of doing that due to it not working out, I would have never had this opportunity. So don't be scared to do that. Have confidence in yourself and know how to sell yourself. And just some more job seeking advice is soft skills. I can't say this enough. Be able to display your soft skills, because that is what companies are looking for. These soft skills are stuff like being able to effectively communicate, being a team player, being polite, being someone people want to be around. Because when you're in these interviews, you're sort of feeling out, is this someone I want to work with on a daily basis? Is this someone I want my desk beside in the future? And if you can display these saying, I worked in a team of this size and we created this, or maybe these are some of the hurdles we faced along the way and this is how we overcame them, it shows that you have that experience that they are looking for. Because, you can teach people software, but you can't always teach people to be a good team player. And companies want people who will be able to fit into their culture on day one, not someone they have to train to work in a team, something that you should already be inherently be able to do in this profession. And if you have the opportunity to do so, make something similar to the company you want to work at. If the company you want to work at makes third-person action games, make a piece or analytical paper similar to that. It just shows that you are passionate about what they make, what they create, and you want to be a part of that company. So that is valuable because they know from day one you're buying into what they are trying to make and that you will feel passionate every day on your job making a product like that. Now some more game design specific job advice. I thought I would share this. Anyone looking to break into design is know how to be an effective communicator. If you can't communicate your designs, this will be a great struggle for you because, on a daily basis, you will be writing up a design or pitching something verbally. And you want confidence that when you hand that document over to the programmer or over to the artist, that they will be able to understand what you were trying to say. There won't be questions because you effectively communicated, or it won't be implemented in a way completely different than you imagined because you might have not communicated what you actually wanted great. So if you can communicate your designs, if you can sell people on them, get them interested, this is extremely valuable. And you can communicate this on your website, on your resume, to let people know that you are an effective communicator. And this was a big one I learned from me along the way was show your process and how you got to your end design. If you just put screenshots of your end, product in, what you all made, it's not actually that valuable because it's tough to pinpoint looking from that what you actually worked on and what you had a hand in doing. But if you can show the process about how you went from a document, a game design document, and how you went from a prototype to playtesters' feedback to that final product, it shows that you know the iterative process that comes with game design and you're already accustomed to that. So the company knows when you are working there, you will be fine-tuned to this process and know how it works, which is much more valuable than just showing an end product that you achieved. And prototype some designs. If you have some cool mechanics and cool gameplay thing, jump into Unreal, jump into Unity, get something working. It doesn't need beautiful art. It doesn't need to be complex. It just needs to show that you're able to take something you designed in a document and script it in Engine and just get something working and go through that process, which is extremely valuable because you will be doing that as a designer. So to sum up my talk is, if you take anything away from this, don't be afraid of failure. Failure sounds scary. We're told we shouldn't achieve it. We're told that you want to avoid it at all costs. And while in some avenues of life, yes, but if you are trying to achieve success down the road, you will experience it. It's inevitable. So the sooner you can realize this, the sooner you can come to terms with this and accept it and treat it as a learning process, the better. Because the reality is, you will need to learn from your failures to get to that success. If you let it dissuade you, if you get in your head about it, you'll miss out on so many great opportunities where you could have succeeded just because you were so scared of failing and you didn't seize those opportunities. Be confident in yourself. Believe in yourself. People want to buy into people who know what they are doing. And if you can do this effectively, if you can communicate this, that is extremely valuable because confidence sells. Confidence gets people interested and allows you to take those risks that you might not have before. And confidence sort of comes with accepting that it isn't always going to work out, but you are confident in who you are as a person, an individual, and you can keep moving forward no matter what happens along the way. And lastly, like I mentioned previously, communication is key. Know how to effectively communicate. Know how to sell yourself. This isn't just for the game industry. This sort of goes for life in general, but being able to effectively communicate who you are and why people should be interested is extremely valuable because this will get people, during interviews interested in you. This will keep the conversation going. And this will allow people to just pick up a piece of paper that you typed up about yourself and get interested. If you aren't able to do this, then it will be a struggle to move on to that next step. But if you can type up an effective resume that communicates who you are, and then in that interview communicate it even further effectively, that will get people interested and lead you to the success that you want. So don't be scared. I went through this process with you. I experienced roadblocks along the way, but I stuck with it. And I think we all should too. We all should be open about our failures, be willing to build upon it, be willing to build each other up, and know that failure isn't the end of the world. Rather, it is a step up in leading to that success instead of a step down towards dissuading yourself and killing your motivation. So thank you very much for listening. It was a great honor to be able to give this talk today. And I've left some of my contact info here. I have my email here. If you think of a question later in the week, or you just want to reach out and talk, please feel free to email me. People help me along the way in getting to where I am today, and I'm eternally grateful for that. So I'd love to pay it forward. Feel free to reach out or ask a question today. I'm more than happy to, answer any questions about job searching, my experience, game design, or anything in general. And like I mentioned at the beginning, check out the Search and Affinity careers, see what you're interested in. Maybe you'll be suited for something and you can apply for it. And then I'll see you in the Toronto studio soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Brad. That was a very relatable talk, and I think you're making me realize it'd be great if we could add an applause kind of like sound to this online format. So even us ourselves, we're learning through. You could call it failure in some senses of just trial and error. And I really like how you pointed out the fail fast model of, oftentimes the best way to find that solution is to just have that mindset of, you're going to fail, so let's just get through the failures as quick as we can so we can get to that success.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is extremely valuable. And the sooner you can experience it, the sooner, you can sort of iterate and see what works and get to where you want to be. So, I'm happy that, you can relate to that and sort of apply it.
For sure. So we do have a few questions from the chat. You also got a lot
Sure.
of heart emoticons. A lot of
Thank you
people.
very much, people. Thank you.
Maybe that's the equivalent of an applause
There we go.
in
Yes,
the
I'll take
stream
it as an
world.
applause.
But you have a lot of encouraging words, a lot of people relating to your talk and saying that they're very thankful that you're sharing this and just
Yeah, I'm
enjoying what
glad to
they're
hear that.
hearing. But some of the questions, we have one, what was the one change to your resume that you felt made the biggest difference? And by the way, thanks for this talk, Brad.
Yeah, so I think the biggest change I did to my resume was when I first typed up my resume, I was just saying, hey, I worked on this project and this is what I did on it. Like I designed this, I typed this up, but I started to realize that just listing out what I did, it didn't really show anything. It didn't really show my abilities or my skills. So instead, I turned these into actionable statements. So instead of saying, I designed like this gameplay feature, was I turned that sentence into, I took playtesters' feedback and I iterated upon it, and I turned this feature into something that then led to great success and people really enjoyed. So if you can turn your sentence into stating just something from what you did into an actionable statement as to how you got there and the success that it achieved or where it got, that is extremely valuable because then people can realize that you took the steps and what you did along the way. And it also shows that if you worked on some project that people don't really know, it's tough to know when you're listing out what you did, what that actually is, because they might have never played that game, so they might not know what you are referencing. But if you can say, I typed up a design document for this feature that we got playtesters' feedback on, and I iterated upon and scripted in engine, which then led to the playtesters really enjoying this mechanic, that sounds much better than just saying, I designed this feature.
Great. Next question. Not sure if you can answer this one, but the question is, I know Certain Affinity only allows one application per applicant, but what if I've convinced a Certain Affinity employee to refer me and want to apply again with that referral? Any advice there?
Yeah, so I believe with our job portal, yeah, when you apply through the website, it's a one-time application thing. But if you have got an employee to who's interested in referring you, they can reach out to like the recruiters of the company or those department heads and forward the resume to them. So you don't have to worry about that one application limit because they can hand someone your resume directly, which can sort of get around that. Or they can go on the job portal themselves and refer you for that job. So if there is an employee that wants to refer you, they can get around that one application limit, I believe.
Okay. Next question. Did you move for your career?
I've been based in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada my whole life, and Certain Affinity Toronto came up, and they were only an hour away. And I commute. I wake up at like 5:50 in the morning back when we were in the office to get to this job, and it's definitely been worth it. I am looking to move to Toronto. It's sort of a hurdle right now with all that is going on, so I will be moving to Toronto, but I didn't have to pick up my whole life for this job.
Great. Uh, Next question. What soft skill did you focus on improving the most after your earlier negative interviews? This talk has been super interesting, Brad. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, I think the soft skill that I worked on the most and really wanted to improve was being able to communicate what I've done, what I have achieved. Is I had this like somewhat experience at Battle Goat Studios, and I had my education, but I feel like in my starting interviews, I wasn't communicating this properly because I was just sort of assuming that people knew what I was talking about. People already knew what I was referencing. But once I started to realize that I have to communicate why they should be interested in this experience, why this is relatable, then I started to become much more of an effective communicator because I knew how to turn those points into something that people could get interested in. So instead of just freely talking about my experience, assuming that they already know why it is valuable, I started to learn how to sell people on what I'm actually trying to say and effectively communicate, for this job, this is why I grew as a designer and this is how I did so. Or for my education, this is how I was able to work in a team, the hurdles that we faced, and why it allowed me to become a better individual for working in teams. So knowing how to communicate that effectively was extremely valuable because I felt like for my first few interviews, I was just sort of giving a baseline explanation and I wasn't actually getting them interested or selling them on my experience. And once I started to realize I need to more effectively communicate this, I need to sell people on it, I need to get them interested because they may not know what I'm referencing, it sort of became a much more successful interview because then we could bounce off each other. They could relate to what I'm saying. And then it sort of turned into a conversation instead of me just giving, answers that I assumed they already knew why they should be interested in and how it's relatable to what they are looking for.
Okay. Next question is from Paul. It says, what was the structure of the different interviews? What was common and what stood out?
Yeah, so I think for like I did all game design interviews, so there are a lot of common questions that come up in these. Like what games you play and maybe some flaws in them, how you would improve these games, and these questions were very common in most of my interviews. So I sort of started to get used to them, how to better answer them, how to better communicate, and this structure was very common as to, I would go in a room, two people would come in, usually two designers or a producer and a designer, and instead of it being like a Q&A, it would be more like a conversation. It would be, okay, let's discuss your experience, let's talk about design, let's talk about ways to improve a design, and to sort of brainstorm. And once you sort of realize that the structure is mostly a conversation, not a Q&A, it becomes much more free flowing, and you get much more used to the style of these interviews and how to succeed in them. So that structure was definitely the most common of it being a conversation, two people in a room talking about design, talking through that process. And then some things that did like throw me off along the way during the interview process was some companies would ask different curveball questions as to soft skills, or some would start digging into your design experience and what you actually did, or the design test. Some companies would analyze your design tests on the spot during the interview, and you would somewhat have to say why you gave these answers and why you did the design test in this way. And one company even had me present a design. They told me a game, come up with an idea. I had a whiteboard and I had to present my designs to them. So I really had to be quick on my feet and agile for these, and knowing how to adapt to these different situations. So, the similarities are you're going to be in a room talking to people about the design process, but as to how you actually do that can be different along the way.
Okay. We have a few more questions, but feel free, by the way, Brad, if you want to grab like a cup of water between questions. Don't
Yeah,
want you
no
to.
worries.
All right. Just want to make sure you're comfortable and relaxed. Next question is, has working from home been challenging? And if so, in what ways?
Yeah, so working from home was definitely an adjustment, but it was more on a personal side as opposed to like a technology side. And I'm very grateful for the IT people at Certain Affinity who got us up and running quickly and allowed us to access stuff. But in terms of, personal, like working from home stuff, you need to have that inner motivation because you're at your house. There's typically a lot of distractions, and there's not people all around you. It's just really you, and you're working. So you need that inner motivation. You need to know how to get into a routine at your house. And also, you need to know how to treat it as a working environment. Like, just because you are home doesn't mean that now, oh, I'm going to work all day, or I'm just going to do this a different way. Treat it like you're still in an office. Take those lunch breaks, take that break, or get in that flow of working 9 to 5 or whatever you prefer. Because the sooner you can build up a flow, the sooner you can get into that groove of working from home, the better. Because then you can feel like you're still working in an office and talk to people on Slack. Build up those communications. Feel like you're still in that office, and just know how to, buckle down, get your work done, have that motivation, cut the distractions, but also don't take it too far, because it's very easy with now that my computer's at my house as to like, oh, later at night, I'll just go fix this, or I'll just go do this, because it's so easy to just walk downstairs and do so. But you have to know it's still a job. You're still working the same hours you were in the office. There's no need to push yourself further or potentially burn out just because of this opportunity. Stay motivated, know what you want to do, and just treat it like that office environment that you had, even if it may be more distant.
Okay. Next question. Have you been on the other side of the interview table, as in as an interviewer? Um, and how would you interview differently?
Yeah, I've never been on the interviewer side. I have, reviewed some stuff and talked to people at the company who have done interviews, but I myself have not been an interviewer, but I like to think if I was, I would, keep up that, conversation, treat it like a design meeting in terms of seeing where this person can grow as a designer, seeing their process, seeing their mindset. And the big thing for design is knowing how to step through the process of how you design something. It's not just the end goal. So I would ask, design questions as to Or how can we design this? Because I think those are extremely valuable questions to show how people design, how people think through their process, and how they get to that end goal. So I'd really encourage it as a conversation, as a design meeting, talk through design, work together, and really see how this person reacts to those situations, how they think, and how they work with you all together.
Okay. Next up, do you have any advice for how to tackle imposter syndrome?
Yeah, that can be a tough one. It's a good question because we like to like think of ourselves in a certain way, or we like to compare ourselves to others and like build ourselves up in a certain way. But I think you just really need to experience that personal growth. You need to have that confidence in yourself. You need to know where you want to end up, and you need to just focus on yourself, focus on your own path, and don't worry about what others are doing. This is a big industry. Just because you didn't work out at one place or someone got something at one place doesn't mean that you aren't cut out for it. Just have confidence in yourself, know who you are, be like almost excited for those learning opportunities to grow as a person, and just know that people want to buy into who you are at your core and who you are personally. People want to be a part of that. People want to see that. And if you try to fake it or pretend to be someone you're not, people will see through this. Even if you may not realize it, people will. So be confident, be yourself, and be someone people want to work with, and this will go a far way.
That's great advice. Next question. As a junior, there is always a sense that you have to prove yourself. When you are faced with a situation where you have to deal with failure, how do you get the support of your colleagues and superiors?
Yeah, that's a great one because yeah, entering a AAA company as a junior, as an associate, there is definitely that feeling as to, oh, in a company this big, I'm gonna have to make sure I stand out. I'm gonna have to prove that I do belong in this industry. But you start to realize quickly that if you're in the right culture, if you're at the right team, it's all about building each other up. The title really doesn't matter that much. It matters in the sense of hierarchy and management, but it's all a team environment. You don't need to burn yourself out trying to prove who you are as a designer. You got hired for a reason. They wouldn't have hired you if they didn't think you were cut out for this job. So have confidence in that. Have confidence in knowing that you got hired for this job. You're worthy being in this industry, and you're learning. They know you're learning. They don't expect on your first day as a junior to design some super complex feature that is going to be shipped in a week. It's all a learning process that they want to guide you through and grow as a designer. And companies know this, people know this, and if you have the right managers and people in place, they won't have these expectations on yourself, which I've been grateful for because I've had learning experiences at certain Affinity. I've grown as a designer, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. And when I first started, they really allowed me to grow as a designer and experiment and really get accustomed to that. So don't feel like you have to prove yourself to someone because you already have the job. You're already a part of that team. Everyone wants that same success. They're not focused on you trying to exceed expectations. They're just making sure that you are on the path of growing as a designer and being where you want to be.
Okay. There's some more compliments coming your way, specifically, well done. Thank you for being so open, transparent, and generous. Amazing talk. So overall, I have to
Thank you very
agree.
much.
I have to agree with all of our viewers. Thank you. That was very insightful and a great way to kick off XP Game Developers Online, which is all about assisting members of our industry developing their careers from anywhere that they are, from either the starting point or if they're in a senior role and they're looking at how to share their knowledge at that point. So this was really the perfect way to kick off the day. Is there anything else you want to add, Brad, before we move on to the rest of our programming?
Yeah, I would just like to say once again, thank you for this opportunity to give this talk, to be open about my experience, and feel free to reach out to me, after this talk or if anything else comes up, reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. I'm always happy to guide people to success because I was in that situation. I know what it feels like. It can feel really daunting, but trust me, reach out. I can help. We can help, and we can help build you up to that success you want through that learning experience and growth as a person.
Well, thank you again, Brad, and thank you, everyone at CERN Affinity, for supporting XP Game Developers Online as one of our supporting partners, not just with this talk, but also providing mentors for our XP Share Mentorship Program, which is happening across both these days. Really looking forward to continuing to work together.